Hey boys and girls, how you doing? This is Serviceman with another edition of the Service Station Presents SOBs. And today's SOB is Jason Avery. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Do you get called SOB often, or does your size preclude that from happening?
Most men don't call me that. I think
don't.
my wife has once.
Wow. Well, good for her. Did you deserve it?
I probably
did. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm great, and I understand you have a #1 bestseller. Something like that coming out?
Well, I'm working on a book.
New York Times?
I'm working on a book, and let's hope. I'm hoping it gets there to the #1 bestseller.
Right.
But we did just win an award. And,
nice.
The Parade of Homes. We got the best residential kitchen remodel in the Parade of Homes.
Oh wow! How'd you do that? We
had
the best house.
We submitted the project into the competition.
Right. Very cool.
I like to think that they're all award winning.
What was the competition? What did it look like? How many?
154 homes overall in the thing. A lot of them being
and 153 of them were yours.
No.
Nice.
A lot of new construction in that. So a lot of model homes in that, and then there was a smaller pool that was the remodelers.
Oh, very
but
cool.
We're still proud to take home the prize.
Nice, very cool. And how long have you had your company?
5 years now.
In Tampa, or did you start somewhere else? Or
Well, I have kind of been a work in progress. I've been in the industry for 22 years,
Okay.
working for other people, helping them grow successful companies. Got out on my own about 5 years ago, kind of started underneath somebody else. We've been officially independent for 4 years now.
Oh, very cool.
And we're growing leaps and bounds.
Very cool. And what is your target market? Like, where do you concentrate the area of your?
All throughout the greater Tampa Bay area. We'll work within 7 counties, but primarily day to day we're in Pinellas and Hillsborough.
Oh, okay. So what is a typical? Somebody comes to you, they call you out of the clear blue sky. What is the #1 phone call you get, or the #1 kind of work that you do?
It's kitchen remodels,
Right.
bathroom remodels, and it's room additions.
Right. And is there a range? Kind of house, style of house, neighborhood, or doesn't matter?
When the homes are valued less than $200,000,
Right.
people really aren't putting into them the type of remodeling that we're doing.
Oh, okay.
When they're valued over $600,000, they tend to be built with better parts to begin with.
Right. Sure.
It's that space in the middle that's our niche.
Yeah.
They build a lot of cookie cutter homes
Right.
with big floor plans and high ceilings,
Right.
but with cheap parts.
Oh.
Laminated cabinetry or linoleum floors.
Right.
So we rip all that stuff out and start over again.
Oh wow, linoleum is cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, linoleum's cheap, not the what's the kind of?
Everybody these days wants either porcelain tile or hardwood floors or
Right.
maybe some natural stone like a travertine or marble.
Right. What is your favorite kind of project to do?
I like the kitchen remodels just because they're generally fast,
Right.
and you can make a huge difference. And
Right.
when you knock down a wall and open it up to the living room,
Right.
or you take out a low-hanging ceiling or soffit,
Right.
it just changes the whole outlook of the room.
I knew a guy that actually I know a guy that his kitchen, my house is 1,500 square feet and his kitchen is 1,500 square. I'm not kidding. Like, it's the biggest, like, it's a dance concert hall.
Yeah.
But it's the kitchen. And he's got this bar that goes around, it's an island bar, but it's like a square, circle, whatever. And I think 25 people can sit at it, and it's in the kitchen.
That is pretty massive.
Yeah?
But that's a popular thing these days, is that
Right.
everybody wants more of a great room.
Right.
And the islands are a very social place.
Right,
and
right.
often we come into those little galley areas and
Right.
figure out how can we open it up by knocking down a wall and putting in an island.
Right.
And I tell you, it just changes the way that you use the kitchen and you use the home. When
You like knocking stuff down.
I do like knocking stuff down.
Have you noticed that?
That's the fun part of the job.
We have Evie, our wonderful web girl, helping us with the video here today in the studio. So the name of the company is Avery Construction Design Consulting. Do you do a lot of design consulting?
That's the majority of what I do.
Right.
I meet with prospects, and we use 3-dimensional design software
Okay.
to actually create a replica of what this room's going to look like
Cool.
once the improvements are done. So,
Do you do a hologram in their living room so they can stand in it? And
that is coming. I met a guy who has the goggles, and
Oh my
I really
God,
want the
wow.
goggles where you can put them on your head
Yeah.
and take a virtual
open
tour.
the cabinet, get a
Yep.
scotch, take a drink.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. This is what it'll be like. Man, if you could give somebody that experience before they did anything.
It would set us miles ahead of the competition.
Oh my God, the credit cards would come flying. I want it, whatever it is.
Doesn't matter what it costs.
Right, it doesn't matter what it costs. So, what is the most unique kitchen feature or design that you've ever had a chance to be a part of?
The most unique. Well, there's many of those. The one that just won the award involved raising a living room floor, which required removing the fireplace to raise it with a whole new flue system, taking out 8-foot sliding door to make it a standard height door as it came up from the bottom, blocking in a wall with new windows, and then knocking down the wall to the kitchen to open it up so the floor plan was all on one level playing field.
Was the family living in the house at the time?
Yeah, they did.
That must have been awesome for them.
I tell you, we make it as painless as it can be.
Right.
And,
everybody's walking around with respirators on.
Yeah, we just kind of phased the project out. We sealed off the living room, did all the work in there, and then reversed it and sealed off the kitchen to do the work on the other side.
I guess it's better than having everybody look like they're filming an episode of Breaking Bad in the middle of, with the paint mask or whatever they wear in that show. So, I was asking you about the most unique because I've seen, there's some houses in Tampa that I've been to that have pirate ships in the pools, in the backyards, and, crazy things like that. And it's always exciting to me to talk about that kind of stuff. It's also exciting to me to talk about people that are service-obsessed businesses. And you and I are members of a group called the Construction Partners of Tampa Bay.
Great group.
Which is a group that holds our feet to the fire in a room full of the people who they're going to be holding our feet.
It's our peers. They're keeping us accountable.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
A lot of business owners are timid, or they're not really looking forward to being in a group that will openly call you out for doing something wrong or charging somebody too much or just making a client mad or whatever. But I actually kind of enjoy being in that kind of a group, mostly because I've never been called out. But I love being in a group like that because that you're surrounded by people who are going to do the right thing.
Well, I'm a proud guy, and I think it adds to credibility, and just the fact that we can run with the best of them and not hear the flack, not hear the complaints.
Right. And that's a very small segment of, in my experience, business owners. I had this thing, selfservicesucks.com. It's my domain because everywhere I go, it feels like I'm doing it myself. Like whoever invented the self-checkout line, I'd like to personally hang that person with my bare hands. It's like if I wanted to do it myself, I wouldn't be giving you the money. I'd be keeping them. I don't want to bag my own groceries. I don't want to wring them out. I don't want to mop the floor, but it's coming. Yeah. Like sooner or later, you're going to walk into a grocery store and they're going to hand you a mop. And you're going to be like, what's this for? Well, we want you to clean up this. Why would I want to do that? I don't know if you've seen, but there's pictures. I think Sedona, Arizona, just launched the first automated McDonald's. There's no cash register. There's no cashiers anymore.
Like Wawa's?
Yeah.
Where you walk in, you got to touch it on the computer screen?
Yeah.
I saw something this morning that was a quote from Albert Einstein. And he was talking about the day that technology surpasses human interaction and how he fears for the generation of stupid people that are going
It's here. We've arrived.
GT is doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right, the bank, yeah. So the moral of that story is you probably don't want to demand any kind of salary requirement when you're doing a job a computer can do completely without you. I'm just saying, I don't, and it's crazy, and these are one of the things, I try to avoid politics or whatever in the videos and things that we're talking about, but, you really don't want to plan for your life to raise a family on a minimum wage job. That's just not a good plan.
No.
Go to school, get an education, learn a skill, learn a trade. I met a welder last night, and that's one of those trades that that people don't think about or regard highly anymore. But the guy's a great guy. You probably know him. Rustic Steel Creations does awesome work all over Tampa.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, his stuff is everywhere, and that's a perfect example. Like it's not a job that that you would think that you could make a killing at, and this guy's making a killing at it because he's awesome at it.
Well, I'll tell you, I love the neighbor of mine who's the welder who made me my custom smoker on a trailer.
Oh, very cool.
Absolutely awesome.
Very cool, very cool. Did you get to help?
No, I didn't get to help, but I was happy to buy it from him.
Are you a welder, or do you do any?
No, I don't do any welding.
Now, what do you do as a hobby? What's your...
As a hobby, I like camping, I like fishing, I like playing poker.
You're an outdoorsy guy.
Yeah, I am an adventurous. Well, yeah, I guess we put it together once in a while.
Right. That's cool. And you just got back from a trip not too long ago with your
great
wife.
Cruise, yeah. Great cruise. We went to Aruba, Curacao, and Grand Turk.
Was it just you two?
Yeah, no, we had two friends that came along as well in another cabin.
Okay. Was it a good time?
Yeah, great time.
What was your favorite spot?
I definitely love the turquoise waters in Grand Turk. It's absolutely fascinating to me that the water goes from 10 to 20 feet down to 9,000 feet, just like that, straight down.
Wow. What's it look like down there?
It looks turquoise blue. The locals say you see an atomic sub swim by every once in a while.
Don't you love when you go somewhere and, 9,000 feet, obviously you're not going to be able to see the bottom, but when you go somewhere where the water's 20 or 30 feet deep and you can see the bottom?
Yeah, in Aruba we got to snorkel over a reef and over an old shipwreck, and it was actually
a real or a plant.
It was real, and it was
was skeletons.
It was a German freighter ship that they sunk it intentionally right at the beginning of the war in 1939.
Why'd they do that?
Because they didn't want to be taken captive and allow the ship to be over to the hands of the Dutch.
Right. I understand. Wow, that's very cool. So what was that experience like?
Neat, getting to swim down and put your hands to it just to say you've touched a piece of history is a fun thing.
Right. That is cool. That would be a good time. So, we talk about service all the time and in the things that we do. And what do you do? What does Avery Construction do as a way to set themselves apart, from everybody else that does what you do?
Well, what I find is that right from the beginning in the estimating process, many contractors don't handle that process very well.
You think?
I find that half of them tend to go out there and just sort of ballpark the numbers, where the other half of them go out there and maybe try and get a little too specific, a little too early in the process. And they say, I'll get back to you next week with an estimate. And then 3 weeks later, the client's trying to chase them down for the numbers. They really couldn't get the numbers down because the client hadn't made any decisions. And the client hadn't made any decisions because they haven't heard any numbers. It's like the chicken or the egg.
Sure.
So our process is a same-day estimating process where we just use a worksheet and we walk through each of the trades that are involved one at a time and talk about what are the potential lows and the highs. What happens if we keep it over here and what happens if we move it over there. And so with that, we ballpark the numbers as well, but in itemized bite-sized pieces that are, listed and documented on a piece of paper that we can give them a copy of. And so in essence, we're educating our client and to make that process a little more comfortable.
Isn't it crazy that someone who claims to be a professional in whatever business they're doing has no idea what something that they do every day costs? Like, that always blows my mind. Like, how do you not have any idea? If this is truly what you do every day, how do you not know?
And I ask the clients that all the time. Did he give you any numbers? Why didn't he give you any numbers? I don't understand. So
is he going to go back to his laboratory and mix some chemicals to come out with some secret number?
I think more so it usually comes down to limited options. And so they're going to come back and propose something very specific because this is all they have to offer. Whereas we try and be a little bit more custom as a company and offer custom solutions and offer all the options.
Right. Well, one of the things that we do differently, because we obviously have different businesses, I can't, you do all your work at someone's house because there's almost no other way for you to do the work. But for what we do as a computer company, we can do the work for you at your location, at our location, or remotely. So one of the things that I do to try to help customers, find something that fits them is every time we have a job for somebody, we have 3 different prices. We have at your location price, at our location price, and remote price. And the reason that there's 3 different is because if I have to send a tech to crisscross town, and that's kind of what techs do all day, is they just keep crisscrossing town in this nonstop traffic that we have, in this 24-hour day traffic that we have in Tampa.
Traffic.
And there are some customers, and I have a lot of these customers that they don't care what it costs. The problem has to go away because the person whose computer's down is costing the company way more money than my fees. Then you have the other people that just want to drop it off to you.
Oh yeah, lost revenues is huge.
Yeah, and then you have other people that want you to remote into them because you can. A lot of times you can't because their internet's down and there's no way to remote into them, or they have a virus and you can't get into the system. But I always tell everybody up front, I'm real good at giving the bad news up front because that's how I want to be treated. Like if I take my car to get fixed somewhere, I don't want to drop it off for an oil change and then find out you did $1,500 worth of stuff when I pick it up. And since it's at a car lot, I can't grab the keys until I pay this ransom money, which has happened to me in the past. I'm not a kid anymore, so that kind of stuff doesn't happen to me. But it just drives me insane that business owners hide things thinking that that's a way to win. And I guess if you want to kill every customer you have and go look for a new one every time, maybe it is a way to win.
So in my industry, what I find is that a lot of contractors, will hide behind a total number. And they're going to give you a list of things they think are included in the project.
Right.
Here's a total number. Well, if it is something that neglected to make it into the itemization, how do you know as the homeowner? You don't know what's missing.
Sure.
And so, they'll tend to beat you up with the change orders after the fact.
Sure.
That's one of those horror stories of this industry.
Right.
Is, every extra thing costs them more money.
Right.
And so we're very specific and not only put together an explanation in a contract, but we also give them an itemized budget breakdown that says what they're paying for item by item to the penny.
Right.
And then we take a focus on not just telling them what is included, but we try and tell them about everything that's not included as well.
Right.
So that way it eliminates any of those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I have flat rate pricing. All my prices are on my website. So if one of my techs out there and you feel like, well, this isn't accurate, you can check it right now. All of our prices are on the website. All the line items are on the website. And the reason I do that is because in what we do, and I don't want to necessarily beat up just on business owners. Let's take a second to beat up on customers too. Because I'll get a customer that'll call me and they'll say, let me think of the stupidest thing I can think of. My desktop printer doesn't print. Okay, that's a real simple, easy fix. Usually a reboot will fix that, right? And then the tech shows up, and then desktop printer can't, print. How much will that cost? $75. Tech shows up. By the way, while you're here, here's the 200 other things I didn't do the last year. Can you take care of all of them too? Sure, just not for $75. So I don't know if you get that where someone tells you I need a hinge put on a cabinet, and then you go to the house and they want the entire kitchen done.
Well, right out of the gates, we don't run into that. As we have a job minimum to kind of eliminate the maintenance work.
Right.
But as we get into a project, I'll often find that there reaches a certain point where the client has spent their maximum budget,
right?
And but they find that couple extra things that they'd still like to do, and they assume that at this point they've spent enough money, and you should just throw that in there for them.
Right.
Yeah, so
it's only a marble floor in the kitchen. Really, I mean, is it really that big of a deal? No, because I just happen to have one in the truck. Let me go get it. I'll be right back. Yeah, that's one of the things that drives me crazy about IT is, and I don't know about your business, like everyone that calls us is in a panic and angry. Like I never get a, hey, our server blew up. Hey, when you guys get a chance, can you, I never get that call.
I tell you, I used to be in the roofing industry many years ago, and that was a horrible industry because you had to spend your time trying to convince people why they needed something that they really didn't want.
Right.
And now being in the kitchen bathroom remodeling industry, it's fun. They like it, they want it, and I enjoy the sales process a lot for that reason because it's very happy and positive.
Right.
But you run into all kinds, that's for sure.
And that's true. That's true too, because we do websites, and usually, I don't think we ever get a website that someone doesn't want. And they usually want it because the one they have is awful and no one should ever have seen it. Or they don't have one at all and they want one, you know what I mean? So they want to take a brick and mortar, they want to look like a big brick and mortar on the internet.
You mentioned my book, and the book is actually a lot to do with the topic of the customer experience roller coaster.
Let's talk about it.
So I talk about the different emotions that they experience throughout the process. Right. So while it always starts off fun and exciting, this is going to be great, remodeling our home, husband and wife don't always agree and about the strategy. That creates a little friction, and now we come down that emotional scale.
So now you're a hostage negotiator,
a marriage counselor,
counselor, bartender.
So once he realizes that she's right, then we get past that point, and we get excited again. Right. But now they've got to make a million decisions. Right. What color? Where does it go? What floor? With what sink? And what faucet and valve? And so all those decisions are taxing. It brings us back down again. We get ready to start the job. That's exciting, but we don't get any sleep the night before. We get anxious, and now we tear their home apart. That's devastating. And the world brings them back down again. Get some paint on the walls. We're excited. Taking time to punch things out, that just takes too long. So, it's a process for us to understand and try and figure out how to manage those highs and lows so that it's not so overwhelming. And we make it a point to finish every job by going back to the client a couple weeks after the job has been completed. We don't want the final collection of the check to be the final experience, because
Sure.
that in itself is uncomfortable.
Right.
They're wondering, what if I find something after you leave? Are
Right.
they ever going to come back again?
Right.
And so a couple weeks after the job's been done, they've had a chance to move in and get their life back to normal.
Right.
Now we show up on their doorstep and we bring them a nice gift,
Right.
and I'll put them back on cloud 9, telling them how beautiful the new home looks. And with that, we're going to go ahead and put them in our social media and the website.
Oh, cool.
And that's ultimately where I'll hit them up to go ahead and put some good references out there for me
very
too.
cool, very cool. Do you ever notice when you're going through the process that, thinking about the best way to say this, going back to where I always present the bad news up front, right? Because I like to be treated that way. Because if you're telling me the bad news up front, you obviously understand where I'm coming from, right? So whenever we do a website, for instance, because that's the longest kind of project that we have, we always tell people right off the bat that this is going to take 90 days. And they're like, how could it take 90 days? And I said, well, because I'm going to request things from you, and you're not going to respond for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to request them again, and you're not going to respond for another 2 weeks. Now we're 30 days into this project.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? So as long, because a lot of my competition, and we see this all the time, people will tell you, we'll get your website done in 2 weeks. That's not possible unless the client is sitting there right there with you while you're making it. That's not even remotely realistic.
We have to work by that concept of, under promising to over deliver.
Yeah.
If we try and stretch it and tell somebody the project's going to take 4, if it takes 5, you wouldn't believe how upset they get.
Oh yeah.
So I tell them it takes 6 to get it done in 5,
Yeah.
and then everybody's happy.
Yeah, we do the same thing. If we say we're going to do a website in 90 days and we get it done in 60, we're superheroes. But if we go 91 days, I thought you said you were going to get it done now. You can't win, So, what is the most rewarding part of having your business and what the growth and everything that you've experienced going through this process?
I think it just boils right down into my own job description. And, over the time, I've been able to get myself away from being a guy who swings a hammer into a guy that, was an administrator. And now really my job today is more about the marketing of the company.
Right.
And that's, to me, the funnest part.
It is.
I'm involved in about 8 major networking organizations in town.
Right.
And I meet people on a regular basis who can introduce me to architects and to interior designers. Those are people who can potentially feed me business all day, every day.
Right.
And so, if I get to go to work by meeting people for breakfast or meeting people for lunch,
Sure.
or, going to great socials or
doing videos,
little networking on the golf course, that's all great.
Right.
It's a great job description. And I'm fortunate that I have a great team underneath me. I have 5 administrators who, make the day-to-day operations happen, and we have our weekly meetings to make sure that everything's still on track, and that we're sticking with the philosophies that are the core of the company.
Isn't it cool to you that you're in a position to help other people have a better life than they may or may not have had, having not crossed your path?
It's a giver's gain mentality, and I can't tell you how far it's taken me just having that mentality.
Right.
Being involved in different organizations, I'm meeting people from all walks of life, and what I focus on is trying to find people who can help other people and pair them together.
Right.
And when you make that connection between the two of them, you've just motivated both parties on both ends, and now you're top of mind.
Yeah, you're a super connector. That's what you're known as, one of those super connectors.
That's what I try to do. I'm doing a lot of training these days too. I teach about how to generate referrals, how to build relationships. I teach a program called Roomful of Referrals, which is all about the DISC assessment. That's one of the most world-renowned behavioral style studies there is.
Right.
And in this class, we actually break the room up into 4 sections.
Is DISC an acronym for something?
No, the letters of DISC have their own meanings. D stands for dominance, I stands for influence, etc. But in this class, Roomful of Referrals, we actually give them more friendly labels. We call them go-getters, promoters, nurturers, and examiners.
Can we do one right now?
And absolutely.
Okay, go for it. Is it hard? Is it long? Is it lengthy? Like how long will it take?
A true DISC assessment, you're going to answer a bunch of questions, but I can size you up right now.
Let's do it.
When you wake up in the morning, and are you a fast-moving person who gets right out of bed?
Yeah.
You think fast, walk fast, talk fast?
Yeah.
Okay? And then others are a little slower. They think more analytically. They compare options before making a decision.
Right.
All right? Now, once you've divided your room one direction, the faster pace versus the slower pace, Now, are you motivated in the morning more about the people you're going to get to see today and the places you're going to go today and the fun things you're going to do or how you're going to help people? Or are you more motivated by the tasks? You have your list of things that you want to accomplish, and you're going to check those things off the list, and that excites you to know that you're getting your list complete.
Tasks.
Yeah. So a faster-paced, task-oriented person is what we call a go-getter.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the smallest groups of people in the world. They tend to be the business owners. They tend to be the high-level managers or executives. They're very motivated, very driven, very results-oriented, get-her-done kind of people. And those people, though, tend to be very common in your networking organizations, though, because they're the ones that are motivated to go out there and get it done. So they know how to.
Yeah.
And in your industry, in the website world, typically you're going to find a lot of examiners. And examiners are the slower-paced people who are more task-oriented. And
that's the web girl there.
And that's where the kind of people, they would rather stay hidden behind the computer screen, working on the website, and not have to deal with the interactions of the people.
Say something so they know you're here.
Yeah, that's me.
That's definitely
yeah.
Sure. And in a networking organization, that's not motivating at all, right? That's kind of uncomfortable, having to stand up in front of a bunch of people and talk.
I don't like that. I enjoy meeting people, so I'm not behind a computer all the time, but I don't want to be in the spotlight.
Myself, I'm the faster paced person as well, but I'm more about the people. I'm what we call a promoter. And so for me, it's all about large groups and excitement. And that's why I enjoy my job, being out in the field every day and getting to meet people every day.
Can someone switch at any point in their life?
Well, actually, 77% of the world is dominant in two different behavioral styles. And so, where your go-getter is number one, maybe it's your examiner that's number two, because you like your time in front of the computer. For me, my promoter is number one, and my go-getter is number two.
Well, what I'm saying is, can I switch from a go-getter to a promoter? I would choose to be a promoter.
What I can tell you is that everybody has all four of these styles within them, and we're all a unique blend. But when you have to use those skill sets that aren't your natural skill sets, it exhausts you to do so.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So if you have to, if I put myself into a room full of examiners for the day, which again tends to be those architects I'm working with, if I'm going to go to the architect convention and oh my gosh, being there and having to slow myself down and be more structured and talk about process and procedure, and to me that's not fun and it's exhausting.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand. Well, that was cool. I've never been psychoanalyzed on a video before. That was all. So how did you learn about that? How did you get involved?
I went through professional training for it, and now that I've been certified to teach it, I've actually had every member of my administrative staff go through the program at least 2 to 3 times, because it's not only helped us communicate better as a team, and I used to send out my project manager with my salesperson to verify the numbers on the project. Well, he being the faster pace and he being the slower pace, this guy's running all over the top of this guy. This guy's getting his feelings hurt that he doesn't feel respected, and it creates confrontation, and then that doesn't present well in front of the client. So now that they understand each other better, this guy knows that sometimes he needs to bite his tongue and let this guy have the opportunity to shine, and this guy gets to feel more appreciated because of it, and now we have a much better experience. So that's with the client and with the staff, but when it comes to even closing the deal, and I found it with husbands and wives, and he is all go-getter and just trying to get me to the bottom line. What's it going to cost? Give me the number.
What's the number?
And he's taking all the fun out of it for her, the promoter, who wants to go to the granite yard and pick out the colors, and this is going to be great, and so having to speak to them in each of their own languages and tell him, sir, I don't want to waste your time. Why don't you go back to the office and finish what you're doing, and I'll call you out when I'm ready to get you to that bottom line. And in the meantime, we're going to go to the granite yard and have lots of fun. And so just being able to speak different languages to people in a way that they appreciate, that's what the whole program is about. It's called about the platinum rule. The golden rule is to treat people the way that you want to be treated. The platinum rule is to treat people the way that they want to be treated.
Oh, and so how much of that has to do with being present?
I tell you what, if you're dealing with a nurturer, you better be present in a conversation. And a faster-paced person like either of us, in talking with a nurturer, if we're carrying on this conversation, I'm like, oh, and hi, web girl, and we keep on talking, that could be very offensive to some people. To me, I don't mind, but to a
Right.
nurturer,
Yeah.
you better keep eye contact.
Yeah.
You better lean into the conversation.
Right.
You better, make sure you are present.
Yeah, I've been working on that a lot over the last few years because someone whose brain goes a million miles an hour, it's really hard to slam the brakes on to absorb somebody to get to a point when you're.
Well, and you have to. You have to be able to take that deep breath first,
Right.
and approach them in a softer, way if you're going to want to move that relationship forward.
Sure.
Have you ever met somebody for the first time and by the end of it you thought, wow, that was awesome. That person was
Yeah.
powerful and great.
Yeah.
But then you've also met somebody sometime and you felt like, wow, that was awkward. So that's what it's all about.
Right.
When you're meeting somebody who's completely the polar opposite of yourself,
Right.
and it can be a very awkward conversation.
Sure.
You have to get your mindset right. You have to be able to approach them in a way that's going to make you more relatable,
Right.
so that ultimately you become more referable.
Right.
And that's what leads you to being profitable.
Right. So how much of your business is networking related versus phone calls versus anything else?
Last year, we did $2.4 million in renovations,
Mhm.
and we received $1.1 million of that by way of referral.
So 50%.
Almost,
Yeah.
40 and change. Yeah.
Wow. And how do you generate calls for the rest of it?
We do all the major home shows in town.
Okay.
Tropicana Field, the Tampa Convention Center, or the Florida State Fairgrounds.
Right.
We go put on a 20-foot display of custom cabinetry and granite, and a TV roll
Wow,
over
that's
pictures.
quite a process, huh?
Yeah, it
Does
is.
it take a team of 4 to set that up?
Well,
or?
in the old days, it used to. I've learned over the years how to streamline it and compact it
Right.
into something that we can drop off or pick up inside of an hour. So.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
But it's a process, and understanding how to work the show and get the most out of the show.
Right.
We're
You
pretty,
can't just stand at your booth and stare there waiting for people to walk up to you, right?
It
That doesn't
drives
work,
me
right?
crazy when I see people sitting at their table watching the audience walk by like it's
Right.
a tennis match. And I'm one of those. I put on the yellow hard hat. I stand out in the aisle,
Right.
and nobody misses me. Everybody's got to say some comment.
Well, you're hitting them with a hammer. I mean, how do you miss that guy?
That yellow hard hat, they're calling me Handy Andy, Bob the Builder, the Village People. I hear it all, and but everybody noticed.
Right.
And then when we go to follow up that lead,
Right.
when you call up on the phone and say, "Hey, remember the guy with the yellow hard hat?"
Right.
Instantly they know who they were talking
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I get Bacon Man still, and that was how many months ago? 2 or 3 months ago. I do silly promotional PR videos for my company, and at first when everyone thinks you're crazy until you're successful, and then everybody thinks you're a genius. Have you ever noticed that?
I've noticed.
So, and that's, I know a lot about history, and I've read about the greatest people in history, and that's just one of the things about, people that achieve greatness is everyone thinks they're insane until the minute they're successful,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, oh man, that guy was, and then they say, I always knew he was a genius.
That's an innovator.
You were like the number one, So I do these silly videos every week, and every time we go somewhere to a networking event, I'm always recognized as being one of the characters in my videos. Will that get me a computer job? Not today, but eventually, I run into people enough times, they see me enough times, I'm on the radar enough times, not begging them to buy something from me. Sooner or later,
That's just it. It's touching. How often do you touch that
yeah,
person?
yeah.
And so again, for me, I want to meet the architect. I want to meet
Right.
the interior designer, and it doesn't mean they're going to start funneling all the business to me.
Right.
But when I stay in front of their face,
Sure.
and on a regular basis through the social media, the website, I send out little handwritten postcards in the mail from
Oh,
time
very
to
cool.
time.
Right.
Send out invitations to a home show.
Right.
Just little ways to touch and say, "Hey, I'm still here," and
Right.
and it never fails. It's like clockwork. Usually about 9 months to a year after the relationship starts,
Right.
then the first transactions start coming through, and once you complete one job and it goes smoothly and efficiently, then you open the floodgates from there.
And consistency.
Yeah.
The same message every time, and the same personality. Like, don't be, have your personality all over the board. This guy's crazy. Oh, he's happy today. He's psycho tomorrow. Like all of this. Well, seriously, like, at the end of the day, no matter what any of us do, we all do service, no matter what we do. And people only really, to this day, still want to buy from people they know, like, and trust. That's never going to go away.
That's exactly it.
So we have to be chipper, good mood, someone that, you don't really don't ever want to give your money to someone who you see is always mad. Because how is that transaction going to go down? You know, you want to give your money to people that seem to be happier.
And that's the advice I give to clients. I tell them, hey, look, you know, when you're shopping and interviewing to find that contractor you're going to hire, you know, don't make a price-based decision, and you know, make a decision based on who you can communicate with the best. Because if you're having a hard time communicating up front, it's going to be a miserable outcome in the end. You know, there's always going to be that unforeseen thing that nobody, you know, counted on. Hey, it's not supposed to be there when you tear open the wall, and you got to be able to communicate to, you know, come up with resolutions.
What's that expression when someone tells you who they are, believe them? Like when the first time someone shows you who they are or tells you who they are, believe them. You know, so I use that a lot. You know, and I make sure that everybody that works with me understands that we have to be friendly, we have to be accommodating, we have to really listen. And see what the goal they're trying to, you know, because if you tell me you want a website, or you tell me you want a computer network, or you tell me you want me to develop an app, you're not really telling me anything. What you really need to tell me, or what I really need to gain from you, is what do you want to accomplish? What is the goal here? Because if you think putting up a website, you know, just putting it up, walking away from it, and the phone's going to ring off the hook is reality, it's not. And I'm going to tell you that's not reality. You know, if this is something that you want to get into, you need to get into this for the long haul and keep going back to it and keep changing it, editing and update. Same thing with a computer network. You don't just buy one computer and you're done for life. You know, there's nothing that maybe your kitchens last forever, but technology doesn't last forever. You know. I'll
tell you, I've torn out kitchens that were already remodeled once before. You know,
seriously,
15 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
You know, things are dated.
Yeah.
You know, so what was popular then is not popular now.
What is this wood paneling? This is awful. No, that used to be the thing back in the day.
Sure.
Man. Yeah. So what else do you do to promote the company?
Well, we do, again, all the major home shows, a lot of networking, and then otherwise it's everything's internet based in some way. The social media side is picking up, video work's picking up, blogging, you know, none of those things.
I saw one of your videos yesterday.
Great.
We were building the Construction Partners website. I've never seen the video before, but I saw it yesterday. You did a great job.
You know, all these little things, they're not going to make the phone ring off the hook, but they're all contributing factors. And I mean, it's to the point now where we'll get 10 to 15 incoming calls a week for new estimates, and they're from a whole variety of different sources. And one from over here, one saw the blog over there, the other guy, you know, caught the video or something that somebody shared for me. So
you got to be everywhere.
You got to be everywhere.
You got to be everywhere. And it used to be you have to have a building everywhere. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You just have to look like you have a building everywhere nowadays. You know, thank God. You know, because back in the day, you could only start off as a millionaire.
Oh yeah, the signage on the trucks to the signage in the yards. There's branding everywhere. Yeah. Everybody's got the shirt.
Right. What is your goal for the company for the next 5 to 10 years?
We've had more than 40% growth for the last 3 years in a row, and now I think we're going to start to taper into something more realistic. But if I can maintain 20% growth over the next several years, it'll be great.
20%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Me
pretty good.
40's been great. I can't complain. But me as an owner, my goals are to, over the next 3 to 5 years, to be able to completely withdraw myself from the day-to-day operations, the working in my company, and be working 100% on my company.
Right.
I'm currently probably 75 to 80% of the way there. I'm doing, as I said, trainings. Well, 3 to 5 years from now, my goal is to be doing many more trainings and to ultimately brand myself as the contractor who's training the other contractors in town how to run a successful business.
Very cool.
And then the 10-year, 15-year vision out there for me is to take that worldwide into, entrepreneurial training, your Zig Ziglar kind of a concept of motivation and, salesmanship.
At least your goals are small and attainable. World domination. Other than that,
a mentor of mine, showed me a chart one day and said, if your goals are this big, but the obstacles are this big, you can't see. You got to have a vision that's big enough that you can see over the obstacles to get there.
Right.
Makes those obstacles feel much smaller.
Yeah, and the other thing, because I talk to people about that all the time, is if you have realistic goals and you get halfway there, you haven't done anything. If you have unrealistic goals and you get halfway there, you've accomplished something.
Circled the moon.
Yeah, you circle the moon, you know, so it makes it a lot more entertaining. You know, it makes life more interesting when you're really shooting for the stars. And it's funny, you know, when you tell people what you're going for, and they look at you like, "Wow," you know, because you know I have a ridiculous goal as well. I would like the service station to be a nationwide, at a minimum, nationwide company that picks up where service is left off in America for every kind of service you can receive. I want to be the modern day Sears. When we were kids, your car was broken, Sears. You needed carpeting, Sears. Roof leak, Sears. Dishwasher, Sears. Everything was Sears. And then Sears forgot that and got crushed by Amazon, who is doing exactly what Sears did when Sears started. They're selling things out of a catalog to people who don't live anywhere near the catalog. So what I would like to do, instead of having all these, you know, 100,000 square foot showrooms everywhere, you know, that who can afford that retail space, is to have small businesses like I do with 3 to 10 people that their service is a service area. And I would like them to be, you know, local in communities all over the country. I don't want to send some guy from Texas to fix a problem in Florida. I would rather the guy that's lived in Tampa his whole life and has to see these people all the time be a service, you know, station.
I'll tell you, I recommend a book to everyone out there, a book called The Big Five for Life. And in the book, it's the story of a business owner who started multiple businesses, and in the end of his days, he employed over 200,000 people.
Wow.
And his concepts were about, you know, what, you know, if you're at the end of your life and you're going to look back and decide if your life was successful or not, and how would you judge it? If you could label 5 things to complete and say, hey, if I completed all 5 of these and I had a great life, you know, what would they be? And then you need to evaluate what you're doing now and decide, is what you're doing serving one of those 5 purposes? And if you have a natural passion for camping, maybe you should be in the business of selling camping supplies, so you can be testing the equipment on a regular basis. And feed your passions. And then he goes on to talk about how you find your people as well. And in the interviewing process, he will ask them what are their 5 big achievements in life, and he will decide for himself if he's able to help fulfill any of their 5 by employing them to begin with. And if he can't fulfill one, they're out, and he's going to find the people who he can best serve. And because those are the people who are going to be truly passionate about what they do, and give it their all. So,
have you decided what your 5 are?
Well, absolutely. I'm a traveling kind of guy. I want to see the world, and I love you know, being in front of groups of people, and I love being in, you know, center of attention, in the limelight. I want to leave a legacy, you know. So, and hence my vision. If I could be a worldwide, you know, trainer, and you know, Japanese businessmen want to fly me over there to speak to their auditorium of people. I'm traveling. I'm in the group of people. I'm leaving my legacy. You know, so that's kind of where my visions come into play.
That's very cool.
And I look at today's business, this construction company that I own, as the success story in the making. This is the story that I'm going to tell to people later on down the road, how I did it, the philosophy I used, the strategies and networking and marketing. And then in the meantime, I'm also putting all the rest of the pieces into place. The trainings, I've been doing it all my life. And I'm writing the book, and the credibility factors and everything that you need to position your resume for, you know, what's down the road.
Have you always been like this, or did something happen to you that made you this way, or how did
I've been like this my whole life. My first job at 12 years old, mowing lawns, and I would you know, go sell my neighbors, you know, to mow their lawn for $15, and then I'd subcontract it to my buddy for $10 to finish it, so I could go on and get the next one. That's just how you know, how I came up.
I'm a hustler, baby. That was you. That's cool. You know, same thing with me. I have big, you know, goals. I think my top 5 are, you know, I'm an entertainer by birth. I was just born an entertainer. I've been making people laugh my whole life. I'm silly. I'm an idiot. You know, I do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's something that I've never let go of. In fact, before my son was born, I probably made 90% of my income being an entertainer. But being an entertainer and raising a kid who doesn't end up in rehab is almost impossible. So I decided when he came along, all right, let me put the brakes on the entertainer career for a while, and let me do something that I'm home every night. You know, I can keep an eye on him, keep him straight, and this, that, and the other. But I've never let it go. I never stopped writing. I never stopped singing. I never stopped DJing. I never stopped doing any of the things that I did, before my son came along, because I've always intended on going back to them. And I've always wanted to be an entertainer and successful, center on the stage, people everywhere, traveling all over the world doing that. But I've always had this thing in my head where I've always really admired business people that created something from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why, but I think it would be more rewarding to me to build a nationwide company than it would be to be a rock star.
So in that path and building a business for yourself, have you
Yeah.
had any setbacks or failures along the
Oh,
way?
tons.
And
Tons.
I think that's what shapes and grooms
Yeah.
the best of the business owners.
Yeah.
And they don't come out of the gates and have immediate success.
Right.
How many failures do they have to
Yeah.
get to the point where they are?
Yeah.
I tried when I was 19 years old. I started a business. It was successful, very successful for a
Right.
year, telemarketing and
Right.
selling vacation packages.
Right.
But that business was dependent on a bigger entity to fulfill the order.
Oh, okay.
And when that entity had challenges with FTC regulations and things that had to be restructured of the industry,
Right.
it kind of washed us out as a smaller, company.
Right.
But that to me was a huge learning experience,
Sure.
at 19 years old.
Right.
And my second business, in my mid 20s, I got off to a great start, and then I just kind of got a great signing bonus, a great offer to be taken on full time.
Right.
But again, another great learning experience, and that it was the foundation of that company called Home Improvement Consultants,
Right.
where I would consult with people about their projects and then help them find a good contractor.
Oh, very cool.
Partly what shaped me into the role I'm in today.
Right.
So, but having to trip up a couple times and start
Right.
over a couple times, I think is absolutely what makes great character in people.
I get asked all the time that if I had, let's say I made it as a comic, because and I had this conversation with my comic buddy a couple weeks ago that helped me do one of my silly videos. We did the Mexican video where he was a Mexican screaming at me, and I was wearing a donkey and a Mexican costume and all this other stuff. And I was telling somebody the other day that nothing happens by accident. I don't think so. And I think the best thing that could have ever happened to me to make it as a successful comic was to have to be a business owner for 15 years, because a business owner looks at things different than an entertainer does.
I think great comedians and just need a bunch of great content, and man, you can't gather better content than being a business owner.
Oh my God!
The trial, you just got to be.
What's that website you always tell me about?
Clients from Hell.
Clients from Hell. You ever heard of it?
No, I
You
haven't.
gotta check that website out. It's so funny. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a ton of challenges. There's a ton of setbacks. There's all these things happen to you,
Uh-huh.
and every day you're just. Really? You're looking at the phone like, did I really just have that conversation? Yeah. But I'm glad I became a business owner, because you're never going to make it in anything in life if you treat it as a hobby. I don't think if you treat something as a passing hobby, you're ever going to get where you want to get with it.
You have to buy in 100%.
Yeah, it's all or nothing.
I mean, as a business owner, there's never a time that I'm not working.
Right.
I'm always working.
Right.
And but to be a successful business owner that enjoys life still, I just learned that you have to work hard and also play hard.
Yeah.
And you have to schedule your downtime.
Yeah.
And as long as it's scheduled in there and you know what you're looking forward to, that's what keeps your eye on the ball.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's difficult about being this type of personality is, if left to our own devices, we would work to death. Like, we would die while working. I mean, that's just, the way, whatever your DNA is, whatever my DNA is, that's kind of the way we are. And we need people around us to go, hey, don't you want to go do, yeah, fine, let's go do this. And then you get there like, hey, I'm actually having a good time. I'm glad I did this. But had you not said anything, I'd still be over there doing that, whatever. So it's, what is, how are your kids involved? Do you have kids or anything like that?
I have 3 kids.
Are they involved in the business at all? Are they going to be involved in the business?
I would love to see them involved in the business in the long run.
At their own, or you're going to do this?
No, it'll be. They've each had an experience working within the business,
Right.
as they needed to earn some money for something. I've
Right.
given them projects. I've tried to bring them in to do more full-time roles, but it's not their passion; it's mine. So
Right.
I haven't forced them, and
Right.
they each have chosen to kind of go their own different directions. And,
Right.
but we'll see. Sometimes we got to go full circle.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I talked to my son, and last summer was the first summer my son ever stayed in town for the summer break. because I put the mandate down. I'm like, you're gonna have to stay in town. You're gonna have to go through man training, because he's almost 18, and I'm trying to get him ready for that second life. And I asked him this year, what do you want to do this summer, right? And he said he wanted to work for me. And I said, doing what? Because he doesn't build websites, he doesn't do networking, he doesn't fix computers, this, that, and the other, But he said, I want to help you with the videos and the social media stuff. And he's never done a video and he's never social media, but he's an 18-year-old kid in this day and age, which is
they grew up with it.
Yeah, it's a perfect, man, I will keep that boy busy all summer long doing that stuff because it's exhausting, being a full-time marketing, like you're talking about earlier. Same thing with my company. I've gotten to the point where 80% of what I do is shaking hands, meeting people, marketing, and just trying to look at the big picture. How do I take this thing to the next level? How do I take this thing to the next level? Because my eyes have left Tampa a long time ago.
If you're not moving forward, then you're usually falling behind. I'm always driving. Yeah. How are we going to get there?
Yeah, and I never thought I was the kind of person that would ever think of a nationwide company because, from my background, that's not even possible. The way I grew up, we grew up dirt poor in trailer houses, and to even think that I could possibly build something to a nationwide thing, not even a reality. But the closer I get, the more real it looks.
Absolutely.
I'm like, wow, I could totally pull this off,
Yes, you could.
And so what would be fun for me is even if I make it as a stand-up comic, which I will because I have every intention of doing so, I wouldn't walk away from this. I had 15 years of blood, sweat, and tears in this, and if I could take my 15 minutes of fame to help this,
The key is in finding that person who is your replacement.
Right.
And if they can do it 80% as good as you can,
right,
you let them do it.
Right.
And that's the key.
Call me when there's a problem.
My second in command and my project manager, general manager, I tell him all the time, the moment you can take my job from me, it's yours for the taking.
I'm always looking for that
I'll
guy.
be happy to get it to you.
Right.
So, we're always working towards that next step.
Very cool. Very cool. Did we cover everything that you would like to talk about? Did I miss anything? Is there something I don't know that I maybe should know? You have one of your seminars coming up.
Yeah, June 11th. And June 11th, we have a class for Roomful of Referrals. It's going to be in South Tampa at off of Lemon Street at the Sons of Italy restaurant.
Everyone's invited.
You have to register in advance.
Everyone's invited.
You can reach out to me through the website at Avery Construction if you'd like to go. Be happy to get
.com?
AveryConstruction.com, yes.
Okay. You don't have one of those .RUs or whatever, any other letter?
Just simple Avery Construction. And but yeah, the program's still open for enrollment for the rest of this week. It's Friday,
right.
And then otherwise, just love for people to visit our pages and see what we do. We got a huge gallery of pictures and lots of testimonials. It's really easy to see what we're all about.
Do you prefer people contact you from the website, a phone number? What's your...
Yeah, through the website is one of the easiest ways, and the phone number is real simple. It's 855-HIS-WORK. It's because you're going to love his work.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Once again, Rolando, the serviceman at the service station, presents SOBs, SOB, Jason Avery, Avery Construction. You did a great job. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.